Pro Football Hall of Famer Ed Reed back here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Ed?
I'm good, Rich. How's it going?
Oh, I'm doing fine. Look at you, part of the paparazzi, Ed. Look at you.
Hey, man, got to come to the dark side. There's no room for Yoda over here, man.
Oh, my word. So what Ravens team did you find last week coming off of that loss in Cleveland? How were they when you walked in there?
I mean, they were good, man. Those guys were upbeat, ready for the week, excited to go to Pittsburgh. And, that's what we saw. I think those young guys got a great playoff and championship atmosphere, kind of, I guess you could say, test, for what they got coming forward, for what they're looking for. No matter, like I told them, no matter the schedule, the record of either team, that's going to be a playoff environment, so that's what makes that rivalry so good. And me and Hines actually talked about this when we did our interview with Ford, or was it Honda unit? I'm not sure, but up in Pittsburgh, we did a ride along, and me and Hines talked about that series, that rivalry being whoever came out of that had a great chance of being in the playoffs and making that run to get a championship.
So. I guess then let me ask from what you could glean. Again, I know you were with the team leading up to the game. What type of team is this? I can't figure it out. I mean, they were offensively dynamic the first 2 weeks of the season. Kansas City, they handled its business against them, and obviously we know it is a tough place to win, even though Indianapolis did it. Cleveland punked them, and then in Pittsburgh, Mason Rudolph, and they did. I mean, that is a way to look at it. I mean, they really did jam it down their throat, Ed. I say it with the ultimate respect, even though punking sounds disrespectful. But and then Pittsburgh with two backups almost, got it done. So what type of team do you think these Ravens are?
I mean, still a young team and still growing. The quarterback's young, though he's making plays. He still has a lot to learn. You got offensive coordinators just there for the first time, Greg Roman. So there's a lot of stuff that they're still ironing out. You got a bunch of guys on defense who are still getting to know each other, so they're building that camaraderie. I see a bunch of those guys out in Baltimore when I go there just at dinner. They're eating dinner together trying to build that camaraderie. So it's like some of the earlier years that I had there, just trying to get that camaraderie built to where you have a solid team, and that's what it's about. What's up, bro? How you doing, man? And, so they're building the right way. The coach is building that team the right way, man. Always had a chance to be in the playoffs, and that's all you can ask for, to be a winning team and get to the dance and have a chance to fight for that championship.
So what growing pains do you think Lamar Jackson is going through right now, Ed?
I mean, you can see just making the right decisions, really. And for that position, protecting yourself is definitely something that's always going to be talked about for a running quarterback or any quarterback. Is all about protection and the hits that he's taken. Lamar has some moves, man. Lamar is a very savvy, and smooth player out there on that football field. You can see that he stops on a dime, and I think he has it in his head not to take those hits. But as a running quarterback and want to be successful, once you get that ball in your hand, I know how us as athletes, you want to score, you want to get them extra yards for your team. As I used to do. When I got an interception, you can see us pitching the ball and doing kind of stuff like that. And that's what I'm saying. You don't want just that football player to come out of Lamar and he take one of those, Robert Griffin, hits, being that Robert Griffin is on the team, or one of those Michael Vick hits, So you want him to be a smart player. I want him to be a smart player, like a Russell Wilson, like a Donovan McNabb was, making those smart decisions, and throwing the ball right. You make bad throws at times. We all do. All quarterbacks do. Even the best, and Brady and Peyton, made bad throws, So, it's just, like I said, it's those growing pains he has to learn, work in that pocket.
Ed Reed, Pro Football Hall of Famer here on the Rich Eisen Show. Speaking of quarterback hits, what did you think of the one that Earl Thomas laid on Mason Rudolph, Ed Reed?
Man, no ill will in that hit. You know, he was just doing his job. Rudolph held it as long as he could, and when he got rid of it, you know, it's a bang-bang thing. That's something I talk about with concussions and all that. You know, you can't take that out of football, you know, especially when you're giving guys helmets with your weapons. You're giving them shoulder pads with your weapons, you know, and you got one guy on your back, another guy in your front trying to block the ball, and then he gets pushed forward by the guy on his back and, you know, into Earl. And, you know, I was explaining this to some guys yesterday. You think about a boxer, right? You watch Gervonta Davis, one of the pound-for-pound best boxers out right now, the champ. If he ifs at a guy, that guy's going to throw his hands up. His head is going to drop. He's going to try to protect himself. And that's what anybody would do if they're about to get hit. That's what anybody would do if they're hitting somebody. You know, they protect themselves. So it's hard to change that natural human movement in anybody, and we're finding people for that. You know, so it's a really testy thing, you know, and other things need to change besides rules, man.
Like what?
Like the contract for the NFL player. You know, you talking about educating kids, educating parents on what their child is coming into. You want kids to play football. We want more kids to play football, you know, in our youth leagues, right? But we're doing it wrong at the NFL level. You know, we're teaching wrong at the NFL level. You know, we're teaching wrong at the higher level. We want them to do it right, but we're teaching wrong at the higher level. So, you know, we need to put it in the contract. If you play NFL football, if you play football, these are the consequences. There's choices and consequences in life to everything. There's consequences if you play football. Those consequences are CTE, concussions, you know, death. You know, these are the things that come from it. Put it in the contract because people know that's what it is. You understand? Put it in the contract and let people know, and then we go from there. Now they understand that they made the choice to play this violent game, and we don't have to tweak the rules for anything. It stays the same game, you know, for the most part of what we've come from. The pavers paved that way.
So are you suggesting, just so I understand, change the liability lines in the contract so that the players, when they put their name on a contract, they understand that they're putting their health at extreme risk potentially, and therefore the NFL can just say, hey, the rules are now old school? Is that what you're saying? Or?
Yes, sir. Just to say that this is football. This is how football is played. You know, this is how football was played. You know, not making rules every year. NFL put in rules every year. And all those rules are set in place is to punish the people. That's what lawmakers do. They set these rules in the NFL to punish the player, to take money from the player, when half these players, more than half the players in the league, can't afford this stuff.
Ed Reed, Pro Football Hall of Famer, here on the Rich Eisen Show. We just played the speech that Harbaugh had you give to the team. You didn't have any prep work on that one? You just spoke from the Ed Reed heart right there?
No, man, never, man. But, you know, I never, in all my years in giving speeches from high school to college and University of Miami, and even in Baltimore, I kind of go off of what I feel and what I see, you know, a little bit of what I know, and just give a speech from the heart, man. That way those guys feel it. They know where I'm coming from. I played against Pittsburgh a bunch of times, so it wasn't hard, you know, for that dislike, that hate to come out, you know, and give it to some young guys who are in my shoes where I used to be.
Huh. And so do you want to coach still? Because it sounds like
Coach Rich.
Head coach, HC Ed Reed.
Rich, I've been around a lot of great coaches. I've been around a lot of great organizations as far as University of Miami, even my Deseret High School. And in Baltimore, I learned a lot being around a bunch of coaches. I can name a bunch of coaches I've played under, have worked with, and all of these relationships or partnerships. I'm talking about Coach Davis, Curtis Johnson, Art Kehoe, Don Solinger, Chuck Pagano, Coach Harbaugh, Coach Billick, Mike Smith, Mike Nolan, Terrell Austin. I've seen a lot of coaches, bro. So hey, that's what's up, bro. Good to meet you. I've been around a lot of great coaches that helped me to develop into the player, to the man, to the coach that I am, that I became. There's a reason why I was known to be a coach on the football field, because I was more like a Bill Belichick to make adjustments during the game, and I don't know, Rich. I wish I can get to a great situation. They seem to be giving coaches second chances who don't do nothing in certain organizations. Then they go to another organization, you expect the same results. That's insane. That's insanity, ain't it, Rich?
I know. But, I'm sure you've heard it, that because you need seasoning as an actual coach first, Ed, right?
I got 12 seasons in me. I got 3 championships of coaching flag football with my son. What I realized coaching in Buffalo, and the spill I had in New York is that those same kids I'm coaching in my son's flag football game are those same kids that are in the NFL, Rich. So it's not a complicated game. I understand what all these coaches say is seasonal and all that, but for the stuff that they do that takes 90 hours a week, takes me and my crew maybe 60 or 70. The stuff that some of these coaches do in some of these organizations, there's a reason why some of them don't, or most of them haven't gotten to that stage where you see them making the playoffs year after year, or even 5 years later. You got guys that haven't been in the playoffs in 10, 20 years. It's crazy. What's really going on? So they need somebody like myself in these organizations, who know football, not just on the field, but off the field as well. There's a reason why I was known as a leader on and off the field, and of course that's stuff I would need to learn, but what coach is not learning on the job? What person is not learning on the job? You'd be a fool if you wasn't learning on the job.
Well, I guess you're looking. I'm looking right now while we're having a conversation. Ed Reed here. A few more minutes left with the Hall of Famer. I always love our chats. So I'm just sitting here thinking Aaron Boone of the Yankees was in the booth for ESPN, and now he's in the ALCS. And you're seeing in basketball some guys just get a gig when they're done playing. Sometimes just strolling into head coaching gigs, right?
Steve Kerr,
right? Juwan Howard, my head coach at Michigan, was an assistant for many years, but I'm just wondering, like, it seems in football that they'll never seemingly just take a player and just a Pro Football Hall of Fame player and just throw him on the sideline as an HC in the NFL, Ed. That's a tall order, don't you think? That's
their loss, Rich. And when they do it, they will see. They'll learn something about themselves. But I'm an outspoken guy. I've been outspoken, always did. And I always said the NFL is a reflection of our country. So there you have it. There's a reason why they don't do certain things. There's a reason why when I was in Buffalo, certain coaches, whose names I won't say, looked at me as a player and not a coach. It was very disrespectful. It was very disheartening when I'm coaching better than you are. You teaching by the book. I can teach by the book and coach you, technique and all that stuff. So I know what I could do. I know my capabilities. I've been through what they call the gauntlet. I've been around these coaches. I've sat in coaches' meetings on Mondays and Tuesdays. I got coaches that can vouch for that. So I'm not really concerned about not having certain time, with the teams and stuff like that. There's a reason why I'm doing the grind, the show with you.
Right.
Because there's some respect there on Ed as a football player to where somebody knows he can be an analyst, but go in there and critique film and look at it from a different perspective. So the resume is built, Rich.
Well, I also know Belichick thinks extremely highly of you, and we've seen NFL films footage of Brady and Belichick game planning just for you, knowing what you've done, X's and O's wise, and what you're capable of doing. At least I know that. That's for fact.
There you go. There's a reason for that, Rich. Because I am going to put the time in to study to know my opponent. I am going to put that work in. So that's one thing the organization will be able to count on, is that he's going to put the work in.
All right, before I let you go, how was that to be honored at the Bonacani Fund? That is a significant honor that you received, Ed. What was that like for you, brother?
I was going, truly a blessing and an honor to be there, Rich. I mean, I've been knowing the Bonacani family since 2002. My agent, Gene Motto, he's in baseball now, introduced me to him, brought me over there to play in a golf tournament. And it was heartfelt, Rich. It really was heartfelt. Chris Collinsworth was there, good friend. And, to represent a brother, Hall of Famer, rest his soul, Mr. Nick Bonacani, for what he's done for many people, not just for his son, but for many people. It's inspirational, Rich. It's truly inspirational, and I totally support those guys, man. Mark Bonacani, man, that guy there is, it's so special, man, for the things he's continuing to do with his family and supporters, with the Miami Project, Mr. Bart Green, who I know personally. I had to see him for a nerve impingement I had, same one that Peyton had surgery on. I went to see him, and he, helped me to get through my situation. So you got a bunch of great people that are working with that foundation, man, and I encourage people to look them up and go and go and donate to that fund. If you got $1, $2, it don't matter. Every dollar helps, because I had two uncles that was, paralyzed, man, from waist down. From neck down. And, as a kid growing up, you don't know. You don't know. And quite frankly, this was back in the early 80s, Rich, where, my family did not have, the means to help them, to get them help. So I'm thankful to see something like this years later, not knowing what God had prepared for me to be in that situation, to be around people like that, So there's a reason for everything, Rich.
Well, congrats. It's so well-deserved. And, Ed, I'm so thrilled that you did NFL The Grind. I hope you keep doing it. When I heard that you were doing it, I'm like, perfect. It's perfect. You're perfect.
Man, when I heard
great.
you were doing it, I was all in.
All right, right.
So,
That's great.
We got to sit down together, man. Anytime, Rich,
I love it.
Man, you make the call, man. I will come in anytime, wherever you at. We can give them a little karaoke. They don't know that about us, but there's some special things we can do, brother.
That is right. You're the best, Ed. I love you. I don't care who knows it. You're the best.
Right on. Love you too, brother.
Right back at you. That's Ed Reed at 20ER on Twitter, at the number 20, and then the word 20ER on Instagram.
For more of The Rich Eisen Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV for free on BR Live, or download the Rich Eisen Show app.